How you doing, everybody? This is Christopher Ian Bennett with the Vancouver Film School. Welcome to the Storyteller Studio podcast. Holy smokes, we have somebody awesome in the studio today. Beverly Hills 90210. I was trying to figure out which way I open. Do I go right to Beverly Hills? Do we mention that this is the president of one of the most important and powerful unions in the world, SAG AFTRA? Do we talk about the fact that she is a mom? She is a twin. She went to school and did ballet and mime. How do I open the show and try to see if I can get everyone to guess before I finally reveal that, ladies and gentlemen, we have Miss Gabrielle Carteris in the studio. How are you, Gabrielle?
I'm very kind. Loved your introduction. Thank you. That was very kind.
How do you like to be introduced? Like, what do you tell people? Rarely you meet someone who probably doesn't know who you are or what you do. What's on your business card? What are you?
Oh my God. Well, I'll do it in mime so you could hear. No, you know what? I am a really fortunate human being I've had the opportunity to be an actor that's had, I think, a exciting career, and to be able to serve members by being the president of SAG AFTRA. And I thought you did a very good job. Thank you so much for your introduction.
We're really, really, we're honored to have you. The work you do day in and day out with your team at SAG AFTRA has such a ripple effect across our school, and most certainly with our students in the acting for film and television program, but across all those programs. And what an important time. There's a whole places I want to start, but I want to jump into a couple of things. I want you to first confirm, I did read that you had studied ballet and mime. Is that true? That is true?
It is true. I actually, when I was younger, I danced. I had a scholarship at San Francisco Ballet School. At Lou Christensen at the time was the director there, who said, "How tall is your mother? How tall is your father?" I think that was the first sign that maybe I could not be a ballet dancer, but I did study that. And then I did mime actually through my time in college. And when I got out, that's what I did. It's a way of doing political stances, to take a stand when I didn't have a voice to vote. And then it became just a fun thing to do with friends. And now I've left that behind. But when my kids were little, I would do a little mime for them. So.
Were your mom and dad supportive of your early, like at some point you declared, I'm going to be an artist, a dancer, a mime? Is that how it went down? Like how long did you know? Did they know?
Well, first of all, my parents, I didn't grow up, they were a divorce, right? So with my mom, she encouraged me by allowing me to take the classes and supporting me. But then it came time when I was coming out of school and I was looking to pursue my acting career. I had left mine behind, and I had left my dance behind, but I knew I wanted to be an actor. And at one point, my mom said to me, when is long enough? What is it going to look like? How old are you going to be when you're going to say, what, enough is enough, and you're going to move on to something else? Because there's a fear, being a parent, you want your children to be able to make a living, and I did not start.
Sure.
Right. When I got out of school, that wasn't what I was doing. First, I was acting, and then I was doing any kind of work I could do to help to support myself, so I could go and pursue my acting. And I wasn't getting recognized in the beginning. And so for her, there was like, that's okay that you're pursuing this, Gabrielle, but how long are you going to do that for?
Were you a creative little kid?
I guess I was. You know what? I loved.
Like little?
Yeah,
preteen.
When I was little, so I loved doing theater. To look back on my life, I can't believe that I'm here today. But when I was little, we used to do, in our friend's backyard, paint cans. We'd put a big door on top of it, and then we would do on stage. My brother would be Al Jolson. I would be Barbara Streisand, because people said, and my friend was Liza Minnelli, and we would lip sync, and then we would write,
Quite an ensemble.
It was very entertaining. We'd invite the neighborhood.
That old trio.
And then we used to write plays, and we would perform for our neighbors. Little did I ever, that was just fun play, right?
Of course.
I didn't think about it.
But you enjoyed the performance.
I did. I loved.
And you liked you liked people being, watching the performance. You liked the audience.
No, I actually have incredible stage fright. My stage fright is tremendously. I have to say, being in service has actually helped me. So I did all theater.
When did you discover that stage fright?
The stage fright, well, first of all, I've always been very private. So when I danced or when I was doing plays, I never invited people to come see me. So I am still that way. I'm a little bit shy about it. I love to do it when I'm in it. It's the preparatory before I go up to do it. In fact, we were talking about this earlier, but I did a TED Talk about 5 years ago, and I was so nervous before I went on that I literally got on my knees. I thought I was going to pass out, and it's really a big thing for me. But once I come out and then I'm out there telling
you would
the story,
never know that. I'm going to put a link to it in the podcast if that's okay.
Oh, that's
it's
sure.
It's a great talk, and I think people would be very surprised by that. And we talked earlier this morning at breakfast, even about your jumping up to SAG for a minute. Your speech last year at the SAG Awards. With everything going on in those issues, and to have to be the designated voice in that moment in time, that's also, I mean, if there is an understated actor, I think that's probably you, and that's a rare thing, and that's to your credit, because I don't think people realize how much of yourself you have to put into that. And was it hard for you to make that speech? Were you emotionally? How are you feeling in that? I'm going to put a link to that too. It's a lot of people, millions of people have seen this. It's amazing.
Oh, thank you.
How did
I get like 3 minutes to speak. There's a time frame because we're televised and we have whatever. And during that time was this was after the Harvey Weinstein and us. We've had a couple of really intense years. That's my opportunity to really give a message. And it's, it takes a long time to write a lot in a little bit of time. So I really perseverate over how I'm going to do it. I have a lot of support around me as I'm trying to get the words that will be exact. And then by the time I go out there and I look at the faces where you think I'd be the most nervous.
I would assume.
Honest to God, I have to say, and I don't know what this is, because I'm not performing. I think that's what when I'm going out,
clearly,
I'm really trying to speak a truth and make sure that people see that I see them, and I hope they can hear the words. It's, for me, is a very transformative moment to be able to come out, and an honor to be able to really say, we see you, and we know what's going on, and we have a responsibility together, and let us rise together, is a really profound moment. So I actually don't feel so nervous. I feel nervous prior because I want to make sure I'm giving a really exact message. But other than that, I find it to be really freeing to be able to, I think, say what so many people feel, and to know, I think that I'm saying something, I hope, that encourages, and supports.
Well, and it's a powerful talk, and again, I'm going to link to it in the podcast. Did you, in high school or at any point in your childhood, there's clearly a creative artist that's emerging as a young lady. Were you civic-minded, an activist-minded person? Would it be equally surprising to the activist or the leader? The political, I hope the word political is, I use that complimentary. I promise. Would that, Gabrielle, have been surprised at that moment on the stage at the SAG Awards last year as president of that group as well?
Would my child self
did you see that coming, that you would be so engaged with this kind of thing too?
Well, no, I've always been outspoken. So I used to, when I was younger and I did mime, I did actually do it for political awareness for certain laws. I didn't have the voice to vote. I wasn't at the age to vote. So I would get a team of young people together and actually coach them. So we would put on political commentaries and we would perform so people would go, and it was a message. So that was, I think that I... only in retrospect do I realize that I was really that outspoken. But in my life, I never would have imagined that I would have the opportunity to be of service in this way. It's been, and I have to say, it's been transformative in my life to be able to do this. But I don't think leadership is something you aspire to. I think if somebody is aspiring to leadership, then they maybe aren't the leader to have. I think that to aspire to, for me, to be able to be of true service, and whatever comes from that, that is really this is just like a... Oh,
I love that about you. I love that it's about making change and about service, because I think now more than ever, without getting too political, I think that's exactly we need a lot more of that.
I think there's a lot of it out there. I think people are ready. We're hearing it.
Yeah, I hope you're right. Do you think when you look back at, so you get your first gig, let's call it your paying gig as an actor, somewhere around 1987, and he
knows my life much better than I do.
I'm gonna show you this clip here.
You're not.
We're gonna run it on the podcast, but I'm gonna show it to you on my phone, and then you're gonna watch Dylan.
Oh my God! What I don't know he's gonna show me.
Okay, so I love this. This is from a very, very famous long-running soap opera.
Oh my God! You do not have that.
Oh, I do. July 20th, 1988. This is Another World. Okay.
Oh my God.
And We have the one and only Gabrielle Carteris.
I've never seen it.
You come in a little bit later here, and I've watched this many times.
First time I've ever. That was my first thing. Oh, I can't believe that you have this.
Oh, I have it. I'll give them all to you, and you're so good at it. And it's, you come in right about. Bear with me.
Oh my God.
There we go. Oh, there she is. There she is. Here, I'll come to your microphone here so I can get you on audio. Have you not seen this?
Never.
Really? Oh, you're going to love this podcast. You're going to love it. What do you like? 18?
No, I was.
Here, move to your mic. I'll give it to you so you can see it. I want to get your reaction to it. Come on, Tracy. I'm gonna send this.
Oh my God! I can't even. I never saw it then.
Really? Oh, I have them all. We're gonna have a great time today.
Oh my God!
First of all, there's nothing wrong. I mean, this is what soap operas were in the 80s.
Right.
I'm not making fun of you so much as my first question is, you've got this background, you understand mime, and I think for any kind of a stage actor that we've interviewed or worked with, or someone who understands theater, mime certainly, there's kind of like the boot camp of essential actors toolkit there, right? And expression and body and voice, all those things. Well, not voice for mime, but then you get a soap opera, and I was really curious. What's it like acting? Do you have to is it a type of acting, or is it just the way they shoot it? Like, why does it always feel so separate from the sitcoms and the dramas we watch in prime time? Why does soap opera acting, what was that like?
Well, first of all, soap operas, I mean, that was exciting for me. I was living on my own at that time. I was actually out of college, and I could barely pay my rent. So that was tremendous.
That's a big part. Another World's a big show.
Well, to have a job was great.
Yeah.
To go into a store and say, I want to buy that skirt that cost $20, which was, was a lot for me. I had no money, so that was great. But a soap opera, I think it was. I mean, it's gone now, that whole genre. There's only like one or two shows that are really left. It used to be a whole genre of work out there for actors.
Yeah.
Really tremendous. It was a great training ground because you were shooting the day that you got your script. You would rehearse in the morning, you'd shoot. And so the discipline of really getting and being in the moment and doing it, it's different. You have to remember that was really the video, right? Everything else was film. And this was like that feeling of that kind of like you're watching it.
Yes.
You're not in it. It's interesting. There's a whole audience of people who are really obsessed and connected.
Yeah. And all my viewers on this show know that I'm a diehard General Hospital guy.
Oh, you
are.
I
still watch it.
So Laura and...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Wow,
I still watch it. Yeah.
God.
It's just, it's out there and it's known and I'm okay with it. I made my peace with it. But there's a real style of acting. Did you, unlike maybe a film or a TV show, do you create a backstory for Tracy, or do they give you one, or because...
Well, you have to for any... I don't care whatever I do, whether in every... I would think that if you talk to any actor, no matter what the genre is, you still have to do the work, right?
Right.
The work is the work. The work is the backstory. The work is the relationships. The work is that what I'm saying is not necessarily what this is about, and it's... I might be really saying one thing, but there's something else that's going on, and that's the work. It doesn't matter what you're doing, whether it's stage, whether it's TV, whether it's film, whether it's, video, whether it's, doing a webinar. So it's all of it is, so the stylistic aspect, I think that stylistic work happens when you're working. You kind of take on the style of the people you're with, right? If you were doing a farce, there would be a kind of like heightened, work when you're doing that on stage versus when you're doing comedy on 3-cam versus a single camera. There's different ways of approaching it, but it's all, in essence, it's very similar, right? So you take on the tone, I think, of the director and the actors around you. And
if you had continued, and you do other stuff, and we have, like from the soap opera side, would you have kept going in the soap opera realm if you could have been like a Susan Lucci today with a long career? Would you have been happy just doing that, or was there something? Did you always see it as I gotta maybe begin here? How did you view that? Another World was a big show. Still
I
is.
didn't look. This what I thought was I was looking to work, so
Right.
I did stage, and then I was the kind of person I did commercials. Where I went to school with people who said I would never do soap operas. I would never do commercials. I always said I'll do whatever I can to work. I wanted the opportunity to do it, and so I don't think I ever thought of I'm gonna be wanting to do the Susan Lucci or film or TV. It wasn't like that for me. I just wanted to work nonstop, and I was open to opportunity and to trying new things, and so I never thought of it that way, and I still don't think of it that way. So it's kind of
I believe that because we're going to get into your whole resume, which is really eclectic and interesting. You do another thing that I am fascinated by.
I'm going to these things I don't even know about.
We're going to talk about after-school specials.
Oh my God!
You had done in the early part of your career, like right at the very beginning,
right.
And these for any of the viewers who are watching this at home who are who are millennials or not. Some of you will know what an after-school special is. Some of you won't. But this was another really important genre, I guess you would call it.
It was really big
in popular television, and there were two that you did that I've watched that I really liked. One of them that's really, really great is called Seasonal Differences. So ABC liked you because they put you on Another World,
right.
And then I think you had done Seasonal Differences first.
Okay.
And Seasonal Differences is a really good after-school special. I'm going to show you a clip. But what was really neat about that, I don't know if you would remember this, a little bit of Canadian trivia. The lead in this particular after-school special was a woman by the name of Megan Follows.
I still know Megan.
Do you really?
Yes.
She's iconic in Canada.
Yeah, she is. And I'll tell you this. She's. So I did Seasonal Differences with her. Then I thought it was What If I'm Gay, but maybe it was Seasonal Differences.
We're going to get to that one too.
Okay. And then I did that with her in the United States. And then I literally, years and years later, we ended up taking an acting class together. And then it turned out our kids had gone to school together. Megan is a really talented actress. I remember when I first met her, and she is a real gem of Canada.
Oh, that is so great.
Yeah, really, she's an outstanding, beautiful woman.
Yeah, we love her. She is a big deal. I really hope maybe you can help me try to get her on our podcast at some point.
Did she do Anne of Green Gables, right?
Yeah, I think she's owned that so much. It's kind of like, can anybody else, after a guy like Leonard Nimoy be Spock? I don't know.
No.
Many will try, but she is still our quintessential.
She is really, really gifted. I mean, I hope she's hearing this. She is.
We'll send her this clip. I want her to know.
For me, I've always admired her work, and I've admired her as a human being too. She's really special.
That's really cool and interesting. So you do Seasonal Differences. And while we're talking, by the way, I will have that playing in the background. There'll be a couple clips. But I want to show you that it's great because it's not as big a part, but the one that I really like you did is What If I'm Gay? Let's have you look at here. Here's your one. What If I'm Gay, an ABC after-school special. Right. This is 1987. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's also important to note that in terms of, how would you describe the tone of LGBTQ type?
Oh my God!
Not like it is today. Awareness, support, all those things. You would agree.
None of that was there.
So this is a very avant-garde kind of after-school special. Here's a clip here, and we'll play it while we're talking in a moment.
You guys are killing me.
I will. I'll call you tomorrow. Okay? Right back.
May have gotten too far. Here's the high school.
High school. I always do high school.
Yeah. Is that you there?
Yeah, it's me.
There she is.
Oh my God.
Anything interesting in there? Just some squiggly things.
Have you ever seen this one?
Oh my. I saw it when it first came out. I can't remember.
I'm sending these to your daughters for sure.
I can't believe it. I would love these.
Yeah, I'll make sure you get them.
Oh my God.
And so in this episode, and I'll show some clips of it here and there, if that's all right with you. Again, I'm not teasing you about this, Gabrielle. This is a really important after-school special. These things tackled, I remember them, drug use and all sorts of issues that, in this case, I think it was really ahead of its time. But man, were you at the time, were you aware that this could be a really, as a topic? Again, is this just, I want to take some good work where I can get it? This is a really different kind of after school special.
You know what? I always was looking to do the work, and I think it's really is an important topic. It was a great time at that point. It was interesting to be talking about it. And there was a lot of concern around it even when we were shooting it. You know, it's one thing to talk about a topic and the other thing to really how you execute it. And this was controversial at the time. But this was the after school special thing was about talking about the real issues going on with young people at the time, right? They needed, that's what 90210 became, right? Like the Uber after school special, talking about the real issues confronting young people. And that's what this is. That's, you know.
100%. I don't think you have 90210 or these iconic TV programs that I think take over with the issues by writing them into the narrative a little bit more serially. But this was a really interesting one. Then after school specials kind of go away.
They go away, yep.
And I think some of it gets weaved into the writing of other popular shows and films. But it was an interesting time. I wanted to ask you about something. There's an actor right now, Asia Kate Dillon. Do you know that name? This actor is on a TV program called Billions. I really like Billions. Paul Giamatti's on that. It's a great show.
Such a good actor.
They, her pronoun is they.
Right.
Asia Kate Dillon identifies as a non-binary.
Right.
I hope I'm getting that
Yes.
right. I'm still trying to master
Yes.
that. A non-binary actor. And I read this really great interview with her a couple days ago.
With
and
they.
With they. Thank you. Thank you.
them.
Correct me
Yep.
again if I do that. I mean that.
No, I literally,
respectfully.
it's a learning curve for us, right? This
Yeah.
wasn't our, when we were younger, people were straight or they were gay.
Yeah.
There wasn't this whole they, them. It's important for us to be able to acknowledge that it's something new for us because we're trying to grasp it in a way that's really inclusive, but it takes time.
Sure. You're absolutely right. And they in this article talk about if they could change anything in terms of how the Academy currently runs its award process, the only thing they would change is remove the Best Actress category.
Right.
And Asia Kate goes on to say, it's the only category where we differentiate by gender.
Right.
We don't do that for, best male or female director. We don't do it for cinematography. We don't do it for editing, sound,
Right,
whatever.
That's true.
I'm just curious, and same for the Emmys. I just was curious for your opinion on that. I thought that was really interesting. I just wondered what you thought about that. That's kind of is that where do you think it's moving? Is that
I know it's where it's
their
moving.
opinion or?
No, this is something that, it's coming up in our membership as well. We have the SAG Awards and the idea she, he, they. And it's, I think there's a choice you can make. You could decide how you want to identify. In terms of a they category, that has not yet come to fruition in the awards. And I think that it's, it's so interesting as relevant as we are, being in the industry, there are things that are still very, we still have to evolve.
Yeah.
And so I think that there's the struggle is not knowing how to, when people are so used to, the awards being given that way, they're not understanding how to go and to break it down. They're not understanding how to do a they, right? So do you almost take away then I guess you'd almost, in some ways, have to take away the award for a female actor and male actor and just make it, just for the actor itself, right? I guess you'd have to open it up. And I think they're struggling with it. It's just it's a struggle. And I don't think that, as much as you're trying to figure out, I forgot to say they, right? Think about a country that has not yet embraced this fully at all.
A whole generation and culture that's ignoring it or
just doesn't even know about it yet. So it's very it's complicated. But I think that there is definitely a desire. You're hearing it from them. You're hearing it from other people. So there will be a natural change. It will happen.
Will it take as long as it did to go from 1987 after school special, What If I'm Gay, to I feel like this is as tolerant and understanding as maybe we've ever been. I think my kids are in a whole
totally
other
different place.
world where they're like, what do you mean gay? Who cares?
Look, my kids go to school with kids who have the same-sex parents.
Right.
Sure, that was not in any, and I'm a lot older than you, that did not live in my world.
No, but when we were living in LA, he had 3 friends. They were all separate. We were the only, I don't want to say nuclear family. We're the only heterosexual married family. They were all divorced, and there were 2 lesbian parents and 1 gay male parent.
Right.
And Fox was kind of like, we're the minority.
Right. Well, when you're in a metropolitan area, you're going to have much more of that. Do you have that fluidity in places outside of major cities? I don't think necessarily as,
Right.
as much.
Yeah.
And I think that, it's, how long will it take? I can't tell you that. I think that people focus on certain things at certain times. There is a real desire where, right now in a time politically where it's not necessarily, it's more conservative time in some ways. So it might be more difficult to have that. It depends who's in political influence at the time. I think that helps to create a language for a society because it comes from the top down.
Yeah.
But I think that young people, which is the most exciting thing, they are really leading the way in their lives in a way that's really profound. They are making statements, political stands. They are really telling us who they are and what they want to see. They're using their voices in ways that we had not seen. Historically, there is real, true impact. I think social media has allowed their voices to be heard without being muted as much because they're able to go and they're able to release their voice instead of waiting for people to, bring focus to it. All of that could actually help things move much more quickly.
Well said. I hope you're right. I feel like that's where it's going, and I feel like it needed whatever the struggle behind them has been. It had to have the weight of that. I think because now I think those words are really true. Jump back to you got a phone call from your agent. This guy, Aaron Spelling, he's got this show.
Right. Go on.
They want you to come audition for this Beverly Hills 90210 show. What was I've read it, and people could see. In your words, I want to know, what did you really think about this audition? What was that first introduction to this show like for you?
Well, first of all, I was living in New York. I came to stay with a friend to audition for pilot season in L.A. At that time, I was auditioning for a lot of things in Los Angeles, just hoping anything would stick. There was, Beverly Hills 90210. I also auditioned for a play down in Orange County, another TV show that was being shot in New York, and another play in New York. So I had... Actually, at that time, I was just auditioning for a lot of things, and I was very nervous when I went in because I said I get nervous.
Yeah.
And I liked the casting director a lot, and I said, "Will you help me?" Because I needed somebody to read with. She was really good. I was living with girls so that we would just read back and forth with each other. I was very lucky. I went in for my audition, and I think that what happened was there were thousands of people. For my character, they didn't know what they were going to do. Was she going to be Jewish? Was she going to be a person of color? They wanted to have somebody who was not just, it had to be a bit of a statement. I had also auditioned for the role of Brenda.
Right.
And so I was auditioning for both roles. And I went and met the casting person. I first did the head casting person and then the person who cast for Aaron Spelling. And he was late in the audition coming in, and he was irritated. And I did my audition. I didn't feel like he was necessarily paying attention. And as I was leaving, I said, "I hope you have a better day." And I think that he was so surprised. I really do. I felt like that was the moment. There was
cut to the core of him in that moment.
Something. Honest to God, because
Yeah.
I saw his head come up, and it was like whatever. Then I was brought back, and then I was brought in to see Aaron Spelling and his whole team. I was so nervous. I was nervous. Again, auditioned for both. And then when I was called to network, I was so nervous that I had brought my manager and I was doing push-ups on the floor before I go. When I get nervous, that's
Really?
what I do. I do jumping jacks or
What was worse,
push-ups.
the audition or meeting Aaron Spelling?
I think everything was just overwhelming.
Yeah.
But the audition was, to meet Aaron Spelling I couldn't speak. And then when I went to do network, having all the room was just packed with executives and Aaron Spelling sitting there. And I came in and I changed for the role of Brenda and Andrea. I had 2 different outfits to do my final callback. And it was amazing. That I was very lucky at that moment in my life. I always say opportunity and luck. The idea of luck and being prepared is something that that's really what luck is.
Were you invested in it? Are you one of those actors who were you all in? If you had not gotten the part, how would you have taken it? Like,
Oh
what kind
my
of
God, that happens all the time, right?
Right.
So I think that I went full out. I couldn't believe I got that far.
Yeah.
I came in for Brenda because I'm a twin in real life, and she was a twin. I showed the picture of my brother. How funny is that? We're twins.
Right.
Did that whole thing. Yeah, but I would have, if I didn't get it, I never would have known. I would have gone to the next thing because that's just what the nature of our
It's the
careers.
nature of the craft.
Right.
And I mean,
You have to let it go. You can't hold on to it.
I was asking this morning at breakfast when does it hit you in the trajectory and the timeline of Beverly Hills 90210? This is more than a show. This is more than a job. This is a character and a cast, a brand, if you want to call that. There's something about this show that has now elevated it to global. I mean, you're almost up there with Star Trek. You're almost up there with, MASH. You're up there with big iconic shows in the, LA Law. When did you realize this is really getting big?
When you said it to me today, that
right, that no.
I do have moments. I don't think that for any of us we realized in the moment. It's like things would happen. It would happen when we realized we couldn't go outside anymore without security because we were being
shopping malls. I've seen clips of you being mobbed.
Yeah, mobbed. It was a really interesting time. It was hard. We were working full time. We didn't understand what was taking place. The transformation that took place on a show that when I first saw it, I thought, oh my God, I have to get a job because it's never going to go anywhere. I thought the pilot was terrible. And I was just like, this is just not going to happen. Going from that to not being able to go out in public, it was just surreal. It was surreal. It's surreal to talk about it now, and it was exciting, and it was.
I'll bet.
It was.
What a dream come true for an actor to be a part of that, right?
Oh my God! It was really to tell the story is more exciting than living in it. Really, because when you're in it, it's too hard to be in it and to recognize it. But later, like when people say things to me, or I remember a moment, and I say it to my kids or my husband, and that's when I go, "Wow, wow, that's just wild." And it's almost like I am still digesting it and still expressing that awe when I tell the stories, because it's when you're in it, it's like life. You're in your life. You can't see outside of that. It's when people are relaying to you a moment. Like somebody stopped me the other day and said, "Oh, I can't tell you how much it meant to."
What's that like?
Oh, and I'm so moved by that. I mean, that's just phenomenal, right? That's just like a thank you, and what an incredible honor. And then that's when I see it. Or when I read about things, or people share their stories, and then I go, oh, I didn't realize. I honest to God feel like I'm in rediscovering, and shooting it this last time, doing the reboot.
Yeah.
For me was the most, and it's going to sound, the most, I want to say spiritual, full circle, wonderful experience of my life. Like, it didn't matter what would happen afterwards. In the moment of coming together with these people who are a part of my family, who I haven't seen some of them. Like, some of them I see pretty regularly, and others, Brian, I hadn't seen since we finished the show. And then I seeing him as a man, and to have real conversations.
A married man with a family.
All of them
and
have
kids.
families.
Yeah.
You have to remember, I'm older than everybody, right? So
yeah.
I always say it was uncomfortable for me when I had my first baby. I was 10 years older than everybody. I was lactating on set when they are wearing their bikinis. I mean,
Andrea Zuckerman was lactating
on set.
at the Peach Pit.
But it was a really different time, and I was grappling with being a young mom and still playing a teenager, and they were sex symbols, and I wanted to be able to make a statement. I mean, it was just a very
And I read
time.
You lied about your age.
I did.
And Ian Ziering did too, which I thought was really interesting.
Right. So did Luke, I think.
Yes, yeah, he was older. May he rest in peace.
Yes, thank you.
That was maybe a gutsy thing to do, but it was kind of like, were you nervous? That's become part of the mythology of it now, and I think everyone's like, oh wow, it all worked out, it's great. But
it was hard.
Did you have to carry that? You certainly pulled it off. Nobody would have thought it.
Like, first of all, I can't believe, like when my girls say, God, Mom, I look so young, because they look young, right? And I say, just love it, babe, because you can make money off that. But no, when I was living in New York when I got the job, I had gone to LA to audition, and when I got the job and I had to sign the contracts, I called a lawyer, and I said, look, they think I'm 18. I want to say, I'm 21, so I can sign these contracts, but I'm 29. Is that going to be a problem? They said, as long as it's over 21, it doesn't matter, because they shouldn't have to do your age.
Right.
So I did that, and it was, I was always petrified. So when People magazine did come out with my age, I wept. I cried. I said, please don't show my age. If you do this, it was I don't know if you saw that story. It was.
Yeah, yeah. I remember it, but more being like, as a fan, I just remember thinking, oh, like, well, I don't know. If she doesn't look like
well,
that.
I was sure they were going to fire me. It was a really, for
I
me,
bet that was scary.
It was, I called People what happened was they'd come to set to interview somebody else and asked for a quote from me, and then they asked my age, and I said, well, I don't play age, I play character.
Yeah.
And a couple of days later, the reporter said, I just want you to know we have somebody who works in the DMV, because IMDb didn't exist then.
That's right.
So that's why I'm such a proponent of taking ages off IMDb.
Yeah.
But they said, we're going to, print your age. And I said, please don't. If you do, it'll ruin my career. They will fire me from the show. I had my publicist calling, my agents, everybody calling. They said, no, we're going to write it anyway. And the show had just started to take off at the time. And so
I'm nervous for you. I feel like
it
that
was,
must have been.
I can't even tell you. I was like ill. But then because the show had taken off, one of the producers said, you're lucky we didn't know your age when we hired you. But now the show is doing well, so we're not going to worry about it. But I think it shaded them. This is my honest truth. I think it always shaded the writing a little bit for them, knowing that I was older. But I think that...
They did... Yeah, in hindsight, you could see some of the storytelling narrative, how you were always you carried yourself with a bit more maturity, even the way they wrote Andrea with the school paper, and even your choice, like, as you all go from high school and you make questionable choices in your relationships. You and Brandon are always one of the greatest misses. But Jesse even was way over here compared to like some of the floozies and goofballs that the other cast dated. Well, you have to remember,
I was getting pregnant. Right. So this
right.
was the reason.
Because you took like 2 years off or a year off?
No, I actually did it in the show. I went and I called Aaron Spelling and asked if I could have lunch with him.
Yeah.
And I said to Aaron, I wanted to come to you, Charlie, my husband, and I would like to start a family. And he was like, oh my God, I thought you were going to tell me you're pregnant. And I said, no. And he said, I can't believe that you're asking. And I said, well, I want to stay true to the show, but I want to get pregnant, and I don't want you to hide my pregnancy. I want to be able to be pregnant because I want my daughter to know I'm proud to carry her. And so, or my child at that time. So he said, okay. And we got a lot of slack. People from around the country, how dare you? Andrea's supposed to be the smart one. New York Times did a whole article on it. I wrote back saying, smart people make mistakes in life. And it is a mistake to go and make people look like they're perfect. That's not reality. That's not who we are. Aaron stood by me. He allowed me to be pregnant on the show. But it was, even though you saw the storyline go, they didn't know how to deal with it because, though it was a very progressive show, there were things about it that were not progressive. I'm Jewish in real life. My character was Jewish.
Yep.
I had my Jewish star on. We did a whole thing about the Holocaust.
I remember.
But I was asked to remove my Jewish star. They said, Middle America does not want to see a Jewish star. And I said, that's so funny because everybody's wearing crosses and there's not a problem with that. And they said, you need to remove your Jewish star. And I said, well, then you need to make sure everybody removes their religious symbols. I will not do that unless everybody does.
Good for you.
But that was, so the show struggled.
I see seeds of a future SAG president emerging and stuff like
and
that.
I had a boyfriend who was African-American on the show, but I wasn't allowed to touch him. So it was like, don't put your hand there. Middle America doesn't want to see it. So they flirted with the issues at hand, but they could not really execute the issues that were taking place.
That is so interesting. And I remember the season finale of the first season. You have Dylan and Brenda. They sleep together.
Mm-hmm. Controversial.
And this was like, I remember we had to talk about it in my grade 7 or 8 class.
Isn't that amazing?
This was like, my parents were like, hey, by the way, let's not be so, because they were really casual about it.
Right.
And it was, I feel, as I recall, they wrote it like, she was happy and everything went fine and there were no consequences. And it was kind of like, is this the beginning of, okay, sex isn't something you have to be afraid of.
Right. That's
and
interesting.
it was a mega big deal.
Yeah.
So that's interesting to know that they had not always been so progressive.
They didn't start, some of the things that you'll see, the repeating of storylines later after, I left after 5 years and I was just a guest after that because I went off to do my own show. But you'll see that there were repeats of the things that happened with me, except they were allowed to go farther. because that was a period of time that had passed. And so socially it was becoming more acceptable or recognized. That we, coming into Beverly Hills, BH 90210 this time around, and my character coming out, exploring her sexuality, not sure if I'm straight or not. That's based on a story from a friend of mine who for 30 years was married and came to terms with, my kids are older now, and I'm not sure this is where I want to be. I think this is an honest conversation and questioning women have at a certain time. And that to be in this day and age, I was able to tell that story. They would never allow that story.
No,
30 years ago.
I thought it was really, when BH 90210, the reboots are big right now. They're talking about Friends is possibly coming back. We've seen Will and Grace. We're seeing all sorts of programs. Right. You guys are an iconic ensemble, a cast. They bring it together. First episode, mega ratings. The fan base is still there. Critics don't get it. They don't like it as much. I watched all of them. The fans, we really loved it. You know what it reminded me of? I thought what you guys were doing, I thought it was really clever and intelligent. It felt like Curb Your Enthusiasm, where it was the only way to get Seinfeld back was, or that the feeling of that and a Larry David outside yourself kind of a perspective. I thought it was really, really, I think it was more clever than the critics gave it credit for. What's that like to have that mega success and then they don't love it as much? How do you feel about that? The fans love it.
It didn't matter.
You didn't care?
I mean, I looked at, I think, because the fans did love it, but I'll tell you that I loved it. I cannot begin to say what that experience was for me. And it was to be back with everybody, to be, like I said, they were all parents now. Yeah. To be able to, family has a lot of different elements and levels to it. We came all full circle with each other. It was, we were divided throughout the time of 90210 when we were younger. Everything was, they separated us all the time. When we came together this time, we said it's all for one and one for all. And we had conversations beforehand, and we talked about the way they isolated us and that we weren't going to have that happen again and that we were going to be favored nations. We shared across the board that we were going to talk to each other in ways we never had. It was liberating for me.
That's awesome.
It was amazing. And it's that part, actually, what I was able to do in this show was due to my leadership in SAG-AFTRA. I believe that working with the members and talking to them about fighting for their rights, that we deserve that, has been a tremendous gift to me. That there are things that I let happen before it was on my thing, right? It was okay, but things that I let pass, I've been empowered, I think, to see what it is to say to people, we have to have a voice together. I understand it.
Look, you give me goosebumps.
It's really,
I'm not making that up.
It changed my life.
When you say that, you're one of those people who you just feel like, oh God, I'm so glad there's leaders out there that mean that, and that matters to you, and you can feel that. I hope you'll keep fighting for it, because I think when we saw you guys do the show, and there's this really great commercial, I don't know if it aired in the US, but it's all you guys kind of going together for a table read, and you've got this iconic Lenny Kravitz song, It Ain't Over Till It's Over, and every super fan was like, oh yes, they're all coming back, and it's like, we want it so bad.
It was great. I thought the ads they did were awesome.
They were amazing.
They were so good. I was like, I like that. I want to see that.
I love good commercials, and this was by far, I think,
one
of the best ones I've seen all year for the show.
Yep, they did great.
There's a bunch of things I want to cover. God, I could talk 90210 with you forever. I did want to mention to you that you do a bunch of really great things in and around and then after that. And so for decades, you are a really successful working actor. And you embody that in small parts and major parts. You're on shows like JAG. You're on shows like NYPD Blue. You did, my favorite one you did was Nip Tuck.
Oh my God, that was so fun. That was so fun.
The Kurt Dempsey episode was episode 4 or 5 in the first season. That was crazy. I won't put a clip to it because I'll spoil it. But if you go back into the Gabrielle Carteris archives, watch as you can download it on iTunes, and you play the plot twist in and about this. Oh my God! You're amazing.
When I auditioned for that, I actually went in and I started laughing. And they said, "What's so?" I said, "This is the funniest role I've ever." And it's really dark, right?
It is so dark,
but it was so funny to me, and I think that's what got me the role, because I could see that this is hilarious. I can't believe you guys have this.
It's
happening.
Unbelievable, and I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but it does this roundabout where you go from a woman wanting a nose job on Nip Tuck, of course, to this whole other what?
Right.
It was
great.
Oh, you were so great. You were just a different character, and there's a bunch I really love. But I want to talk about, Ken Howard for a moment. In 2012, he dies, the president of SAG.
No, he doesn't die in 2000.
Sorry.
We merged the unions.
You merged the union in 2012.
Right.
He dies...
2016.
16, forgive me. And that day, talk about that day because you become acting president shortly after. Would that... I mean... Your life and your career takes a very big change in
Major.
Yeah. What was that day like? And I hope you don't mind me asking you about that.
You know, this is what I'll say overall. What I've really recognized, if there's anything I could leave people with, and I will say this forever, I believe we must live in the world of yes and lean into our lives. And I think that I loved Ken. Ken and I knew Ken from when I was younger.
Yeah, you were very close.
I was... well, I knew him years before at Williamstown. I was an apprentice, and he was doing, I think, Cyrano de Bergerac at the time. I forget what show he was doing there. And then I met him again during the time with a group of people who wanted to be a part of merging our unions. And we were a part of a political party in the union called Unite for Strength. And I got to know Ken, and he was in my house that when we would meet talking about wanting to merge the unions, he decided to run as president.
Yeah.
And then later when we did merge the unions, and that had taken 6 attempts. This was our attempt. We did it differently than the prior times. I think it was a thoughtful way that we did it.
In the build up to 2012.
Right.
Right.
And so in 2012, we merged the unions, and I became his executive vice president. And Ken and I worked together.
What a guy to learn from.
Oh, and you know, I believe that leadership comes to people in the time when it's most needed, and he was the perfect leader for our union at that time.
And he really cared about you, and the things I read, I never knew Ken, of course, but I feel like he would be very proud of what you're doing now.
I hope so. I'm very close to his wife. He was a great leader. He was a man who loved what he did. He really loved actors. He discovered his voice in a way that he never would have in his leadership. Leadership is a very interesting thing.
It is. And in this union, it's very... In 1933, the Screen Actors Guild is born. And there's a lot of leaders in the build, but I'm going to mention a couple. You've got James Cagney, Ronald Reagan, right. Ed Asner, Charlton Heston, Gabrielle Carteris. Now, it doesn't jump to you because then it's not till 1977 we get Kathleen Nolan.
Right.
Then we get Patty Duke.
Right, who played my mother.
Then we get Melissa Gilbert.
Right.
And then finally, Gabrielle Carteris is there. Is it a surprise to you that there are not more women presidents, and how do you view the history of your predecessors? Do you care to even think about it? There's an amazing legacy, and yet there's an obvious imbalance.
So I never thought of it, we come from a different time, right? So right now in our union, we have the 3 top officers are women. How great is that?
Yeah.
That is rare amongst unions around the world to see that kind of leadership. So I think it speaks to our membership. Yeah. And it speaks to how fabulous women can be.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, I think, look at what you're seeing historically is, even the fact that we had women presidents. We've never had a woman president yet in the United States. So, we're definitely progressive.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think that, look, times we're much more open as an industry. We're eclectic, aren't we? We do represent the wide swath of humanity. And so I think that, artists tend to be more open and, inclusive historically, right? It's not everybody across the board, but I think there's more of a willingness. I think that, look at when Ken passed, I was in negotiations the day he died. This is going back to what you had asked. I was running the negotiations for our commercials in New York, and I was asked to step out of the room, and I was told that Ken had passed away. And I was like,
Jesus.
That's pretty intense. And my husband was upstairs because I was going to go to dinner with him that night. He was in New York for business, and I went into the room of our, the negotiating team, and I said, I have to leave. I said, Ken has just passed. And I still get whatever. And so I told my husband, I have to leave, honey. I'm leaving. I got to go back to L.A. And suddenly it was this explosive thing. I had to call all union leaders. I had to call the industry to say what was going on. I had to be prepared for press releases. And then I was the interim I was
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Please keep going.
I was the interim president until the national board, where the national board has the ability at that time to elect the standing president if something like this happened. And I was, I was honored. It was unanimous in the room, and I was elected. And it's been 3.5 years now, and I just was reelected now. I have 2 more years, but I was never in my plan. It was never. I didn't even know when I was a part of my acting. I didn't even know that members were a part of the union. Like, I thought the union was a building where they did these negotiations, and I just benefited from contracts. I didn't know members were a part of the negotiations, that we had leadership.
Wow.
I didn't know nothing of that. Oh, it's not something you plan.
Yeah, there was no plan. This was not part of the strategy, was it?
And it's not. There's no strategy for me. This is my real thing, and something I talked to you earlier today about. I do not believe that people should aspire to leadership. I think it's a mistake. I think that for me, it was a matter of being of service, and whatever that means, whatever it comes out to be, that's what it's meant to be. And I think that if you aspire to being the leader, then perhaps you're not doing the service. I think the service is what should define us. And so it was nothing I had planned.
Anyone who knows you has said that. When I've talked to people who have worked with you, who know you, they've all said a version of that, which I find so remarkable. And it makes, I can't be the first one to ask you this question. Would you consider, up the road, a run in traditional politics?
No, absolutely not.
Jack Valenti said that.
No way.
Ronald Reagan said that.
God bless them all, man. Absolutely not. I have no desire.
But yeah, well.
Sorry, you want to do it? You go.
No. But I think the world is in short supply that people understand that. To your point, it's not about aspiring to leadership. It's about service. It's about fostering and forcing change when we need it the most. You're clearly really good at that. You've been reelected. Your members are very supportive of you, despite a divisive election campaign, which happens. I think you've done a lot in a really short amount of time to unite and bring people back to it at a really critical time. Are you, in 2 years? That's the term of a president for SAG.
SAG-AFTRA, yeah.
Is that enough time for a president at SAG-AFTRA? Can 2 years? Can you get all the things you want done then? That feels short.
Well, I'll tell you what makes it short is that you have to go through an election cycle. I think that's disruptive. I think that that's painful, and it's really it is. You can't do the work of the union when you're doing all that, because you come to a point. There's the NLRB and what you're allowed to be doing. The work is the most important thing. Serving the members is the most important thing. And so, I think just on that alone, I would like to see an extension of time, even if it was 3 years.
Yeah, sure.
But I do think, you were talking earlier, say, it should be 6 years. I don't think anybody would run if they thought they were going to be in service for 6 years. You're also trying to manage the idea that you want the president, in our union, we want our president to be a working actor. So how do you manage the work and really doing true service?
How are you doing that, by the way? What's the balance like? Because it's a big job.
The balance is hard. Well, first of all, because it was unexpected for me.
Yeah.
So, when I had been partially paralyzed, I actually had to stop working. So there's a period of time you'll see that I stopped working because I had lost my ability to really speak, and I had a movement disorder, and I was being treated. So that allowed me to learn about the union and what needed to be done. And then as I've gotten better and I know more about what's going on in the union, but I've also gone back to work. So I have it's not just me, right? There's so many people around me who I support a vision. I'm not the vision maker, but I am the one, I think the president is there to help facilitate and support the vision of the members. And we have great leaders around us and, and a really wonderful staff. So it can be complicated. It was complicated when I was doing 90210, and I'm working morning to night, and we're working on the script, and we're working on our characters, and we're working and doing all that and shooting. And I still have to be cognizant of, we did our Netflix deal, and we had, we have certain things that we're trying to go. I mean, I'm still doing the work of the work, but then people around me are doing the work, and I tend to, because I travel a lot, this has been a conversation, was the fact that I'm not always around for my auditions, and so I'm making, my work in our union, because we are volunteers. The rule is family, work, and union. So sometimes I get a little, confused and befuddled about it.
Yeah, right.
And then I come back to it. But I said to people, look, if I'm going to run, I need to be able to work. And it was really great for me to work. It was good for the members to see me work. It was good for my spirit to work. It allowed me to also be really relevant to what's going on, because it's one thing to hear it. It's another thing to be in.
Well, and it feels so common sense, too. I feel like how could you not identify with your members when you are a member yourself and you are embodying those things at SAG-AFTRA as a working contributor?
Right.
And it's surprising to me that we don't see that more in mainstream politics. That, get the hell out of Washington.
Right. Be with the people, man. That's where it's at.
Go sit at the coffee shop and talk.
That's for all.
Listen,
right?
Whatever.
Right. Be a part of it.
Yeah.
And I think there is something to be said. I mean, for me, one of the things, and I am proud of it, and I think it's important, I actually have worked almost every contract of our unions before we were merged, and then once we were merged. That actually helps me to have an understanding of the work. Profound. It's really profoundly different to be able to say, I've been there in the trenches and I know what that's like. And, yes, this has to be worked on. Are we perfect? No, we're not perfect. I mean, I always say, if you're looking for perfection, you're in the wrong place. We aspire to get better and we work on it. That's our job. And our business is always evolving. The industry is always changing. And so that part of our ability to be successful is to be willing to say, yes, we have to be better. We have to change. We have to continue growing. And I think that when people get really absolute, like this is not good, well, that's okay. We can make it better.
Yeah.
All you have to do is do the work. You can complain. Or you can really do the work. And
you're doing it that message is so important with the social issues. And we'll get, tonight you're going to dive into a bit of that when you do our Storyteller Studio AMA live event. But the social issues, the technology, the streaming, all those things, I think you're the most important president for SAG-AFTRA at the most important time. And the way you handle it with your humility and with your commitment is really... We're all really moved and we're really proud of you. And we think you've done you do a great job. You've done a great job. You're going to be great. Tonight you're receiving an award from Vancouver Film School. First time in 33 years we've ever done this. Do you feel like someone's going to hand you a Career Legacy and Achievement Award? I'm sure you'll say, no, I don't feel it. But do you look back and are you proud, or are there still mountains you want to climb?
There's a lot of questions there. First of all, I am overwhelmed by when you were telling me about the award and what it means. I was saying to Pam, who's with me, I was like, oh my God, I just didn't understand. So that's lovely. It's really an honor, and it's humbling. Again, that's just, but I don't think that, I can't say we ever arrived to where we were supposed to be. I don't know what that looks like, but I have taken pause. It has made me take pause and to look back, and I think I've had a really, what an incredible journey. And it's been, as long as I'm alive, I'm hoping I get to live the rest of my journey. But it is an honor. And I think that, it's a wonderful school. It's prestigious in what you do. You're making a difference, really creating storytellers, and to be able to be a part of that and to be recognized. And, I hope that, it's an honor. I think that I'm more excited about meeting the students, to be honest with you, because I know they're the ones who are going to be designing what the real world's going to look like for us in the next 10, 20, 30 years. So,
talking with Miss Gabrielle Carteris, the president of SAG-AFTRA, an iconic actor with a distinguished IMDb portfolio. Will you come on the podcast another time if you're in town shooting something? We would love to have you. Thanks. I want to get your pre and post SAG Awards and Oscars and Emmy picks.
Oh my!
Oh my God!
Did you see Jojo Rabbit yet?
No, it's on my list.
Oh
everybody,
my God!
The whole crew's been asking me that too.
It is.
Yeah, everybody.
Unbelievable.
Buzz. It's getting crazy.
There are a lot of great movies out there, so I shouldn't be saying one over the other. But I must say, I just saw it the other night, and I think it is perhaps one of the finest. I will always remember this movie.
Okay, good. It's top of my list, and we've got to cover a bunch of those.
And you have your kids.
That's
your
right.
Kids should see it. It's generational.
Oh, sweet.
It's generational. Absolutely.
Thank you so much for being on the podcast. You are amazing. Congratulations on your award from the Vancouver Film School. And I hope we'll see you again sometime soon.
Cha-cha. Thank you.